All right, my name's Jorge Guerrero, and this is my TED Talk on fear. And sorry about the weird screen. I got to record with my phone. And so my topic is fear and why it's the biggest emotion we have on a daily basis. And what I mean by that is, why do things scare us on a daily basis? Like simple things, like tests, quizzes, just everything, any day thing. That's understandable. But what I also mean by that is kind of like government and then religion and school. Things that we really don't think of fear kind of being a big part of is actually a huge part of it. So that's what I'm gonna talk about today. Now, the first thing I want to ask you is, look at these two pictures. Would you ever walk down any of this during this dark tunnel or through this dark alleyway without, kind of second guessing yourself of something bad happening? Could you walk through this alleyway without kind of looking behind your back, thinking that someone might come up on you and do something, or through this dark tunnel and maybe think that some weird, freaking, I don't know, monster might attack you or something? It's not really a rational idea, but it's things that run through our mind just because we're a little bit scared. Now, this reminds me of when I was a kid and I was walking to school or home from school. There would be certain paths I would not take because there would be dogs there that would just come running up to the fence and try and jump over it, and it would scare the life out of me. So, those certain, sidewalks wherever I would avoid and I would not go towards at all just for the fact that there's a dog on that side and I'd be scared of him jumping over the fence and attacking me. But that's normal. As children, we all have, normal fears like being afraid of clowns or scary dolls or maybe the dentist and things like that. And that's completely normal, but you'd think as you grow up, those fears would just kind of go away, but they don't. Instead, they evolve into something bigger and scarier. As an adult, you have to worry about things like your home being foreclosed, maybe, bills that you haven't paid, crippling debt, making sure you don't get injured or anything like that, so that doesn't add to your crippling debt. And, in return, those things can maybe add to death, suicide, anything kind of like that, maybe some desperate measures. And that's what you have to fear as an adult, and I think it's definitely scary, but this is part of everyday life. But what I'm here to talk about is not about that. I'm here more to talk about how fear kind of spreads and kind of controls people. My first example of that is the whole Ebola crisis a while back. Ebola was going on in West Africa, millions of miles away from America, but yet everybody was freaking out about it, only because one nurse came back with maybe a case of Ebola. And this happened, I think, in Los Angeles or somewhere. I might be dead wrong, but I don't know. But yeah, what happened? Then everybody in America started freaking out, like, "Oh my God, Ebola's here in America. We're gonna die." And it's stupid because like she didn't have Ebola, but the CDC and everybody came down. They made a big scene of it, and it just made things worse. And that's what I mean by how it can just spread like a virus, kind of like Ebola does. And once it's in someone, it can spread from another person just by the mere fact of mentioning it. So that's some things we just can't overcome. Things like natural disaster, war, and and viruses we can't overcome. Those are just things that are a part of life, and we can't really, overcome those. And that's what I mean by when you think you can outgrow your fears, and but you don't. Instead, they just kind of evolve into something. Like when I was 12 years old, I was in a car accident with my father, and it left him paralyzed, and it kind of made me wonder, like at that time I was growing up, I was maturing more. I was getting over my, old irrational fears of being scared of dogs and just being scared of the dark and, just being scared of simple stuff like that, like scary movies. But then just when I thought I was getting over that fear, another fear emerged of vehicles. Nowadays, I have my own car and I drive it, but I don't trust it. I don't trust any car that I get in. Just from the mere fact that I don't think they're safe anymore. I was in one when my dad was in a car accident and it left him paralyzed, so I don't like them. That's why nowadays I'm a safe driver. People say, I have both hands on the wheel. My friends make fun of it, but it's just who I am. Just because I don't trust cars, I think they're a giant metal coffin. And that's why if I'm ever driving with a car, if anybody's driving the car and they kind of do this sudden move or they kind of do this sharp turn, I get scared, immediately grab something, close my eyes, and brace. I don't know what I brace for, but I just brace for something bad, even though nothing happens. And that can be kind of used in a way to manipulate people. Car dealerships can use that to say like, "Oh, buy my car, it's safer than the other one you had." And it's sad, but it works. Like this example, I'm gonna use the Red Scare that happened from like 1950 to 1980. And for those of you who don't know what the Red Scare is, it's when when the U.S. government and the Soviet government at the time, which is Russia, were threatening each other with nuclear war. And it was a scary time, I guess. But the government kind of used it for their advantage, just kind of like to persuade people on what to do or what to do for them. Like that picture in the bottom right corner, that's a picture from one of my songs that I like, the music video, and it's called BYOB, Bring Your Own Bomb. And they talk about how kind of the government uses us to do the dirty stuff they don't want to do, how they send us to go fight their wars and stuff, and it's really not fair. And so the Red Scare, they kind of did that. All this propaganda pictures, they're all real. It's kind of just them talking about, communism is bad. Communism is the devil's work. Be careful of communism. Buy this, buy that, so you can be prepared for nuclear winter and this and that. And it was a time of, it was a very controversial time because that's when the whole Vietnam Korea thing happened. That's when all this stuff was going on, and that's when the government had like its most grasp over over us, over the people, but not with anything like. But it was a grasp of fear. Like they were controlling us with fear. They're telling us if you don't listen to us and you do these certain things, the Soviets are going to attack and they're going to win, and we're all going to die. And that kind of brings me up to my next subject, which is religion. I'm not really trying to put down anybody's religion or anything, but religion, every religion has its own heaven and its own hell. And depending on what religion it is, like they want you to do certain things, or they don't want you to do certain things, but you have to believe and do certain things for you to go to heaven. And if you don't do those things, and if you break those rules, you go to hell, which is a place of eternal suffering, which kind of sucks. So instead of meeting a nice little angel-looking dude like that one, you meet a demon that will eat your soul or whatever. And I don't understand why it has to be fear that they use to kind of control you. Why can't they just say there's a part where you go if you're good, if there's a part where you go if you're not bad. Don't tell them like, oh, you're gonna burn for eternity. That's kind of, I don't know why we need fear to be able to persuade people into doing what we want them to do. Which brings me to my next subject, which is our government and kind of our correction system, because every American, they live their life without kind of worries about this kind of stuff. But when you're driving and you see someone getting pulled over, you're just like, oh, I hope that it doesn't happen to me, because I don't want to get a ticket and have to pay all this money and probably have to go to court to settle all this, just a waste of time. And then other people hope they don't accidentally like ram into somebody and kill them, because then they might end up in prison and convicted felon. Then they're just treated like a dog for the rest of their lives. And I guess this is necessary for when there's like a murder or a psychopath on the loose and something, but then some of these things are just kind of unnecessary for like drug dealers and stuff. Like, okay, they're selling drugs and stuff, but you don't really need to send them to jail for 15 years just for having like an ounce of cocaine on them. Like, yeah, they try to sell it, but it doesn't mean you can just give them a felony and just make them be treated like dogs for the rest of their life. And that's kind of what scares most of the people into not doing that kind of stuff. This is what I'm talking about, where the whole fear kind of comes into play again, where they grab you by the neck and they just kind of scare you into submission, like, don't do this, or this is what's going to end up happening. And so and it's become so integrated with our society, it's even in school. You're going to school. I'm going to school right now, and every day I'm just worried about failing high school, having to repeat senior year, having to deal with that embarrassment, not being able to go to the college or get the career I wanted to just because I messed up. And I don't see why teachers have to come up to us and be like, if you don't do this homework or whatever, you're not going to pass, and you're not going to go on to graduation, you're not going to walk, you're not going to go to college and all this and that. Why can't it just simply be like, oh, here, do this assignment, it'll be good for you in the future, like you'll benefit from it, instead of telling us that, they tell us you're going to graduate. And like I guess they're just kind of worried that the other approach won't really work. But why use fear? Why not use another tactic? Why can't you say like, if you do this homework assignment, I'll buy you lunch tomorrow? Hell, if someone told me that, I'd do the assignment right then and there. But no, they resort to fear and threatening you with failure and all the other things. This all just kind of comes into play with the whole fear of life being a failure. You're just worried that you're going to mess up the whole time and you're just going to end up being a failure for the rest of your life. You're not going to accomplish anything. And so I guess what I'm getting at with this whole presentation is, why can't we just, instead of using fear as a subject of control, why can't we use other tactics to kind of persuade people to what we want to do? Like, yeah, fear is something we can't avoid. Fear is something you're going to feel every day, because it's just a normal emotion. But I'm saying, but let's not use it to our advantage just to get people to do what we want them to do. Why can't we use something else, like rewarding somebody or just, thanking someone for doing something?